All right, this is Dr. Michael Lorenzen. Today is the 21st of August, 2022. We're in Macomb, Illinois, and I'm at the Inselhaus, and I'm going to be talking with Dorothy Gossel, and I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
My name is Dorothy Gossel. It's spelled D-O-R-O-T-H-E-E. Gossel, G-O-S-S-E-L. And I have here the Inselhaus, and we run it since 2003.
So can you tell me about yourself? When and where were you born?
I was born on the island of Fehmarn in Germany, the northern part of Germany, at the border to Denmark. And we were born and raised. I was born and raised there until 1988 when we came to the United States.
Can you tell me about your childhood a little bit?
My childhood. I was born on a farm, and my parents had 4 children. I was the middle child, the trouble child. And I went to school, to a one-classroom school in town, Niendorf, on the island, Fehmarn. And it was just easy going. It was an easy life. And then I went to a nearby town on the mainland for some schooling. And then I went into hotel business. And I loved it. It was always my dream. So here we go. I was living my dream.
Did you go to school for that?
I did an intern for 1 year, and then I went to school in Bavaria, Tegernsee. And then after that 1 year, I went back to work.
Okay.
So I always worked.
Okay. So how did you decide to come to the U.S.? Why did you decide to do that? How'd that work out?
Well, I married my husband, another farmer from the island, Fehmarn. And 1980. We were married 1978. In 1980, he took me to the United States. It was always his dream to live in the United States and to farm. So he took me all through the United States, 6 weeks. And then when we came home, he said, "Could you live in the United States?" Well, my English was 0. I didn't go to school for a long time, so no English anymore. I said, well, if you're not going to China, yes, United States, it's okay. So 1987, we sold the farm, which he inherited. And then in 88, we moved to the United States. We moved to Wisconsin for 2 years to adjust. And we had 2 children. Helen was 9 and Bruce was 6. So it was, for them, was hard too. So they went to school with no knowledge of English, and they were doing fine. It's easy. And then my husband drove around Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa to find a farm. And then in 1990, he found a farm here in Good Hope. And we settled in September 1st, we settled in the old farm, Coda Hamilton's farm. Kids went to school. We had 1 child in Wisconsin, the 3rd, and the 4th one here in Macomb. So now we have 4 children. Every time we moved, we had a child.
So you're done moving?
We stopped moving after that. And then, 2002, the Pineapple Inn, the old bed and breakfast on, South MacArthur Street, was for sale. And my husband said, well, maybe you get a job now and start a bed and breakfast. So I looked at it, and it was not the right thing for me. It was not the right house. And then a friend of ours, Dorothy Curtis, showed me this house, and I fell in love with it. It was a beautiful September day, I remember, and I walked through the house, and the sun was shining through these windows as we sit here in the parlor. And it was just perfect for me. And there I had my first ghost experience.
Okay.
You want to hear?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. So it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doors to the outside this house. And the doorbell rang. And I went, and it was not really a doorbell. It was more like a table bell, calling for the butler. So I went to every door and there was nobody. And I said, oh, shoot, now these kids playing tricks on me already. So then we bought it and started working right away and gutted the house and put new windows in, new plumbing, new air conditioning, new furnace, new water, everything, And then in May 9th of 2003 was the first night we were booked out, starting off Western WIU classes started. And so we had a great night. All the parents were here who checked in their children at Western. But the next morning somebody came down, and I remember I was standing at the butler's pantry in the breakfast room, and one of the guests came in and she was sleeping in room number 6. And she said, Dorothy, do you know you have a ghost? I said, oh no, because you cannot say yes. Then the people will get scared, or they will like it, I don't know. So she told me that she woke up in the middle of the night and heard a breathing right above her. She turned the lights on, there was nothing. She turned the lights off and there was a breathing again. And then she slept with the light on. And so we had great guests, and this is something I really miss when I close the bed and breakfast. My guests, like you, we had a great time with them. I mean, we had artists from Western, we had all the new incoming faculties. Even one of the later provosts came here and stayed with his family. It was a good time.
And I stayed in 2013.
2013, the last year.
I was one of your final guests, you told me,
yeah.
when I was interviewing for the job here at Western.
Yeah. May of 2013.
I remember I forgot some of my socks.
You did.
Yeah, and then you dropped them off on campus for Dr. Lorenzen, and then Billy Clow brought them to me. So
Billy Clow, he was a guest here too. Yeah. Oh, we had so many nice guests. Yeah, as I said, I will miss that. I really miss the interaction with these guests. So yeah, that's when we came to Macomb, 2003.
is there anything in particular that are things that you really want to note about Macomb or Good Hope or the area? Or anything that you really...
When we moved to Good Hope in 1990, we didn't know anybody. And as I said, my English wasn't that perfect. It's not perfect, but it's better. And people from the neighborhood, they came and brought dishes, and they invited us for 4th of July parties. Very friendly. The church, the Methodist Church in Good Hope, still very friendly people, I must say, very open to strangers. We were still called the Germans. So, but it's okay. They knew our last name, but we were called the Germans. And when we get guests, we always tell them, if you get lost, we give you direction for our farm, but if you get lost, just go to Good Hope gas station. Somebody will lead you. Somebody knows where we live. And here again, Macomb, very friendly. And to this day, I may not know the people's name, but they know me. Because I had so many faculty members of Western, and they always went under the department name. So you were library. And of course I don't remember your name. I knew you were under library. So then they still wave and say hello, and yeah, it's very friendly. I must say so.
I will just point out that when I visited you in 2013, you were like the first person I got a Facebook friend request from.
Really?
Even before I officially started on the job.
Here we go.
So you were like my first local connection.
Here we go.
So
we try to make the guest comfortable. I treated my tenants now and my guests before as I want to be treated. And I worked in this business since I was 12 years old. My parents had a bed and breakfast. And I never had a guest in all these years I didn't like. Somewhat different. but I never had a guest I didn't like. So that's good.
Very good. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the Inselhaus? Do you know when it was built? How it's been used? How did you come to own it? You kind of talked about how you came to own it. Maybe could you tell me a little bit of background about the house?
The house was built 1902 by Frank Blount, who also built a house similar, not quite as big, but similar, with the fireplaces in Good Hope. And 2 years later, he moved, I think he moved to Arizona or so. It's all written in here, so you can check. And then Ira O'Hara bought it. Ira O'Hara was a lawyer here in town, and at one time also the mayor. And he raised, was it 3 or 4 children? It's all written in here. And so, and then the Goodens, and not many owners of the house. And then in 2002, we bought it from, tell me again the name. Let me see here on the, oh, it doesn't say, but here. Yeah, and it was just always kept very well. It was spick and span. The first house I saw here in the United States, buying a house, was spick and span. You could eat off the floor. The owner before me had it wonderful taken care of. Yes, we had to make some improvements, but it was good. So that's why we bought it. The structure was good. And then we had guests from these former owners, their children and grandchildren. They all came back and they all wanted to see it. They had parties here, or just a breakfast or an overnight stay. It was wonderful, wonderful to bring them back and see what the Inselhaus was still, what the house they lived in was still doing. Okay. But it was great. How it was mainly used as a private home. So the owner before us, she and her husband were living on the first floor, and the son and daughter-in-law were living on the second floor. The third floor, at one time when the Goodens owned it, before the owner from whom we bought it, and I have to look it up and give you that information, they had also fraternities up there on the third floor, bunk beds. We still had to tear those down. And so it was really, but Mrs. Gooden was like a house mother to the fraternity, as I heard from the children. And they said whenever they were a little bit rambunctious up there, Mrs. Gooden would come up, open the door, and stand there with her arms folded under her chest. And then they would just quick clean up, and then they were all allowed to come down, and she would feed them a meal. Perfect. This house had always a great hospitality. What do you call it? They always were nice to people. They, what do you call it? Hospitality, missing the word.
Yeah.
You find it later.
Okay.
But it was always, people were always nice. And even the children of the owners, the former owners, they were always very friendly and very nice. We had one person who didn't like what we did with the house, but that's it. And we tried to be originally as possible.
Sorry, say again?
We tried to be as originally as it was built. We kept the fireplaces, and we did that. Mm-hmm. We kept the old windows here. So, yeah.
Yeah, obviously you did a good job with it. It's a beautiful house still. I'm sure you'll miss it.
I will miss it, yes. I have to find a job now.
So the people who bought it, are they going to keep it as a
boarding apparently, house? Yes.
Okay.
The gentleman is from the East Coast. And what is his name again? I forgot what his name was. I have to look it up. Anyway, so he said he wants to keep it as a house, as a boarding house. Nobody knows what a boarding house is. They know rentals, but not boarding house. And a boarding house is like we run it here. You get your room with your bathroom. It's furnished. And then you share with 5 other people a kitchen and And that's it. You cook your own meal and you wash your own laundry. All you have to bring as a tenant is your bed sheets and your towels, which is really easy for professors at the university. They may live in Peoria or south of St. Louis. I don't know. One lives in Chicago. So they're good. They're good with that. And we tried to make it easy. In fact, today I brought 2 bags of tomatoes and potatoes and onions. Hang it on their door and they will be happy.
Yeah, they're going to miss you.
I will be back. I think I keep a key.
Okay.
I just kidding. I cannot do that.
I know you're kidding.
No, yeah. You know, the police department has a key to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I'll ask them.
Would you go put some onions in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Tell me about the history that we had.
Yeah, and you came up with the term Inselhaus?
Yes, Inselhaus is island house in German. In island house, we came from an island in the Baltic Sea called Fehmarn, Fehmarn.
Thank you.
In the Baltic Sea, you look it up. And what was his name? Jim O'Toole. Jim O'Toole was an artist here in Macomb. And no, I don't have any pictures from him, but he came up with the idea of Inselhaus because we came from an island in the Baltic Sea and ended up on an island in the middle of nowhere called Forgatonia. So
very good.
Yeah.
Got the Forgatonia into there. Very good.
Yes, right. I love that. When people ask me where I'm from, I said Forgatonia. So, and then they, fine. So, no, and it took a while for people to pronounce it and to spell it, but now they know. So hopefully the new owner will keep it. We hope so.
Well, I know people always call this the Inselhaus now.
Yeah.
Regardless what anybody else calls it. It was naming as people's memories of this place now. So many people have been in here.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah.
I think all the professors who are taught at Western are at least some, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a tradition, everybody come here for their search committees.
Yes.
And when they were being considered for a
I
job.
just talked to Bonnie Script yesterday. She was a animal shelter at Humane Society, and she watched Lars's dogs yesterday. And she said she came for her breakfast because when the first time we had faculty candidates for Western here, they were so nervous. I don't know if you were nervous. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Of course.
Why?
It's nerve-wracking and bring for a job.
Anyway, so they were nervous, and then I had to stand next to them or sit down with them. And finally I had it, and I remember Barb from the English department. I said, Barb, can you not send one faculty member over for the first breakfast? One is free. The next one you have to pay. And then I got more and more and more people wanted to eat at Dorothy's. And I said, my breakfast is not that good. But yeah, they like to come. And I think they liked the ambience. It was nice and cozy. And most interviews were in the winter, January, February. And so we had the fireplaces going and yeah.
And there's a lot of people who didn't get offered jobs that still have this experience and probably remember their time in Macomb.
Still remember. Yeah, number 6 right now, he just took on a job here at Western, and he was here, I don't know, when it was still a bed and breakfast. So 10 years ago or so, he was here and applied for a job. He didn't take it then, but now he's back here, and he remembered that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's so tall. I said, what bedroom did you take? Yeah. So it worked. Yeah. They still remember. And I have one tenant who's been a guest here for the year when we had it as a bed and breakfast. He lives in Peoria, his family. And once in a while in the wintertime, he didn't want to drive home. So then I had always a room for him. And of course, Western has special rates. They didn't have to pay $145. So he took always a room. And now he is a tenant. So 2013, he was my first tenant and still is. And he's my little watchdog. He watches over the Inselhaus. So I hope he will stay.
Yeah, sounds good.
I hope the new owner doesn't raise the rates or something. I'll talk to him. You know, WWDD. What would Dorothy do?
Yeah, what would Dorothy do? Well, new owner have a tendency of doing that.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I think you kind of told me some of your favorite stories of owning the Inselhaus. Anything else you can think of?
Well, as I said before, the first night we had the guest who had the experience was Edith, our ghost. We called her then Edith. We didn't know. And then I also had...
So that's just your nickname. You have no reason to think her name might be Edith. Okay.
No, we have no reason. We don't know who died in these houses. There probably were some people. But I also had some other stories. So, for example, I had a cleaning lady who saw a little girl jumping off the balcony. And she was dressed in a white, probably around 1900 girl's dress, white, with lace around, and these little white boots and socks. And she was jumping off the balcony. And we did some question the former owners if they knew of anything like that, and nobody knew. Nobody knew about it. And she had it twice. And then one morning we wanted to change bed sheets and towels, and there were no towels in the closet. They were all gone. So we had to wash the old ones and put them back on. Next morning they were all stuffed back into the closet, and there was nobody else in the house the night before. Nothing. So that was kind of eerie. Mm-hmm. So we had a ghost. Or we would fold laundry, the big bed sheets, and fold it together, and all of a sudden somebody would slap me on the back of my bottom. And I turned around and there was nobody. So yes, we do have a ghost. Then our children experienced once, they were sleeping, our younger children, Lars and Arndt, and Lars was sleeping upstairs on the 3rd floor. He saw a shadow in front of his bed, and he turned the lights on, and there was nobody. And he turned it off, and he saw the shadow, some dark, body or something in front of his bed. So, but nobody knows. Or somebody would turn the fan off in the bedroom. All of a sudden the fan doesn't run, and nobody did it. So yes, I have a ghost, but don't tell the new owner.
Until he hears this interview.
Yeah, but don't tell him.
Yeah.
I will tell him a little bit about it. Yeah. You have to have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, we'll probably publicize this story a little bit so people know about the ghost.
Yeah.
I know there's some other ghost stories in town, including the Pineapple House has ghost stories.
Yeah, they do. Did you talk to Brenda, the old owner?
No, I have not.
No, you should.
I probably should.
Yeah, I think so. She's interesting. She's an interesting lady.
I'll say Dorothy referred you.
Yeah.
And I always do what Dorothy says.
WWDD.
There you go.
So no, it's, those were the ghost stories. And I don't know, these tenants have not experienced. These tenants have experienced bats.
Bats.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. So
But
they
for
would
someone...
hang in the curtains in the morning. But, they know what to do.
Yeah.
I told them.
And so basically, it just felt like it's a benevolent ghost.
It must be a ghost. Oh, and then my sister, who has her feet down on the earth, she doesn't believe in ghost stories, or believed in ghost stories. And she was staying here for our daughter's wedding. And her husband got a little sick, so she stayed at another room, in number 6, in the smallest. And she stayed at number 1. And next morning, she came down for breakfast, and she said to her husband, "George, what did you do last night in my bedroom? I didn't hear you going to the bathroom or anything." And he said, "I wasn't in your bedroom." "Yes, I heard your footsteps. You were in my bedroom." And I said, "Marvin, it's a ghost. It's Edith." really? She said. I never believed in it, but yeah, I heard footsteps in my room. And I had the feeling there was a body moving in my room. So yes, I do have. And we had, what was his name? We had these ghost tours here once in Macomb. Garrett Muffet or something like that. Have you looked into that? There should be some articles in the paper, in the Macomb paper, in the archives. And so he came here when he had his tours. He did cemetery tours and then house tours, some house tours. And he also picked mine. And one of the people, what do you call it? The attendants of that tour saw a ghost, and there was nobody upstairs. I had no guests, no nothing. And there was upstairs on the second floor. There was somebody moving on the second floor while they were touring this house, and they were only allowed in the downstairs. So the group was in the downstairs, and there was a ghost on the second floor. So yeah.
Very good.
We do have a ghost.
I believe you.
And I hope she's coming here soon. Edith, what are you doing today?
I worked in a haunted library out in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And I never saw the ghost, but other people did. I even tried calling to her. I go, Miss Wilson? This is the ghost of Wilson Library. It's the first librarian. She's supposedly stayed there.
She's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you. I got sidetracked. So we had a ghost hunter staying in number 2, the red room. And he had the same feeling. Somebody was in the room. And he wanted to take a picture with his camera. And sure enough, the ghost slapped his camera and it fell on the floor. So he couldn't take the picture. But I should have brought him. I always forget that picture. We took pictures of the remodeling progress. On these pictures, you have these auras. And room number 2 was very busy at that time. Lots of auras. We had lots of white spots on the picture. And so then this, what was his name? Mr. Moffat said, that's a ghost aura. So number 2. Which room did you stay in?
I don't remember.
Why not?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Welcome to the club. I don't remember either. And maybe I have still the papers. I don't think so.
Regardless where I was at, I don't remember a ghost.
No. Too bad. 6 and 1 and 2. Yeah, those were the ones. And then, yeah, when we were in 5 at that time, then we got the slap on the back. Yeah. But I mean, really, it kind of interesting. Then the first time my towels were gone, I thought, what is this going on? So yeah, that's the ghost. And what else I like to share?
Yeah. Anything else do you want put on this interview so people can hear it 100 years from now?
100 years from now, my children, my grandchildren.
Any other researcher
Good
coming in?
to see you, Tony. I'm just being interviewed here for Western Archives.
Outstanding. All right.
You tell me when you have the encounter with Edith, with the ghost, okay?
Okay.
Really, I think I have a good connection here with the city, with the town. They're very helpful when something goes wrong, they're there. It's a great town to live in. It's a great town. And hopefully it stays that way. We'll try.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And we're just short of half an hour, so that's a pretty good amount here.